finding a comfortable position, either seated or lying, and closing your eyes or just lowering your gaze. And just begin to bring your focus inwards. Just tuning in to the natural rhythm of your breathing. Just noticing the inhalation as air comes in through the nose. That slight pause at the end of inhalation before the breath turns, and then you're exhaling. And again, that slight pause at the end of exhalation before you take a breath in again. And just tuning into your natural rate of breathing, not trying to alter it in any way at this moment, just simply observing it as it enters and leaves. And as you keep tuning into your breathing, you may notice that you're able to just slightly slow it down as your mind begins to settle. Particularly seeing if you can just make the exhalation that little bit longer. And just imagine on every exhalation that sense of just letting go. And just finding calm and ease and stillness. You may find thoughts pop up in your mind, just simply noticing them and then letting them go. Just keeping your awareness on your breathing. And feel free to keep your eyes closed, or you may wish to slightly open your eyes, but just circling the shoulders, starting off going backwards, so just lifting them up, squeezing them back, and then releasing them down. And just keeping the movement nice and fluid, just gently finding a little bit more ease with each circle. And then going back the other way, so just circling your shoulders forwards. And then just relaxing them down, just loosening off any tension in them. Keeping your gaze pointing forwards now, just taking your head over to the right side, so your ear down towards your shoulder. Feeling the stretch in the left side of the neck. Keeping the shoulders nice and relaxed so they're not raising up. And then back to centre. And then over towards the left side. Feeling that stretch in the right side of the neck. And back to the centre. And over again. Towards the right side. Back to centre. And over towards the left side. And back to centre. Now reaching the right arm up, just lightly placing the left hand on the floor next to you, keeping your gaze pointing forwards, just side flexing over. So you're feeling that stretch in the right side of the body. And with each inhalation, just seeing if you can just create a little bit more space in that right side of the body. Imagine your air really breathing into that top lung. And then just maybe finding a little bit more softness on the exhalation. And then back to centre. And now reaching the left arm up, right hand on the floor, and just side flexing over towards the right side. And again, just imagine creating space in that upper lung each time you inhale. Just imagine it opening up more. And then as you exhale, just imagine it softening down. And then coming back to centre. And now reaching the right arm up and just slightly twisting your body around to the left side and just bringing the arm just to rest on the outer aspect of your knee. Keeping the spine nice and long, as if you're being pulled up through the crown of your head. And just allowing your gaze to just gently move round, but you're not forcing at all. And then back to centre. And then reaching the left arm up, twisting round to the right, and then just bringing that arm just to rest on the outside of your thigh. Again, keeping your spine nice and long. And then coming back to centre. Slightly placing your hands on your knees, and we're just going to do a few rounds of cat and cow just to get the spine mobilising. So on an exhalation, just rounding the spine, just looking down towards your navel, dropping the head, and just curling your spine into sort of a C shape. And then on an inhalation, reversing that motion, lifting the chest forward, and just raising your gaze up towards the ceiling, but not feeling any tension in your neck at all. And then on an exhalation, just rounding the spine down again into that C shape. And then reversing that motion, so you're arching your back, looking up towards the ceiling, lifting your chest bone. And then just repeating a few cycles like that. Just moving at a rate and rhythm that's comfortable for you. Just drawing your attention to any areas that feel tight and that maybe just need a little bit more movement. And see if you can just bring a little bit of fluidity to the movement. So you're feeling a slight rippling effect in the spine. And we're just getting a bit of movement at all the vertebrae. When we're sitting for long periods, this part of our back in our thoracic spine and in our upper shoulders can get very tight and rigid. So it's good to counterbalance that. And just some gentle mobilising motion. And then just coming back to just normal seated position. We're going to come round onto our knees now. If it's uncomfortable in your knee, feel free to do this position in sitting like we were doing. Otherwise, sitting back onto your heels. If you have any discomfort in your knees, then feel free to put a small cushion or a rolled up towel or blanket under there, just so your knees aren't in quite so much of a deeper bend. Just lightly clasping your hands behind you. Neck nice and extended and lifted, and then just squeezing the shoulder blades back and just arching your shoulder blades back and just looking up towards the ceiling, just as far far as feels comfortable, so we're not feeling any tension in our neck. And then reaching the arms up overhead, and then just folding forwards and just coming down into our child's pose stretch. Extending the arms out in front, so feeling that stretch in the shoulders and upper back. If it's too uncomfortable to rest your forehead down, just listening to your body and going as far as feels comfortable with you. But the aim is to really stretch those hands away from the body. So you're opening out the front of the shoulders, feeling that length in the upper back. And then just drawing your chin into your chest and slowly curling back up to a seated position. Clasping the hands behind you again. And then just arching backwards, looking up towards the ceiling, squeezing your shoulder blades together. And then just relaxing the arms down, taking the arms up overhead, and then just reaching them forwards and sliding them forwards into extended child's pose. And then if it's comfortable for you, just resting your forehead on the ground and just taking a few breaths there. Just imagine any tension or stresses just melting away. And just finding that ease and softness in the pose. And then slowly drawing yourself back up into a kneeling position. Okay, we're going to come up into downward facing dog now. So if you're just starting on all fours, hands stacked under your shoulders, knees under your hips, and then toes uncurled. And I want you to draw in the curl, and we're going up into an upside down V shape. So lifting, pressing through your toes, lifting up through the hips, and just making sure your tailbone's the highest point, and you're just in that nice open V. Shoulders should be slightly protracted and then slightly rotated out so that you're not narrowing in, you're creating space. But imagine pushing that ground away, drawing in the navel so that the core's nice and engaged, and just bringing a little bit of movement to that pose to begin with. So bending one knee and then bending the other. What's called walking the dog. And just gently easing out any tightness in your calves or the back of your hamstrings. If at all this feels too much on your wrists, then feel free to take a break and just drop back down to your knees. Maybe just doing a few wrist circles, just to ease it off. And now coming into a static downward dog position, so just gently pressing your heels away towards the floor. Don't worry if your knees are a little bit bent, it's just listening to your body and just working with how your body feels today. And just pressing down towards the heel, feeling that stretch across the back of the body. Now looking between your hands, and I want you to just slowly walk your feet in, and then just with a slight softness in the knees, just coming into a bit of a ragdoll pose. So you're just in a forward fold, but letting your arms just go nice and floppy. In this position, see if you can just slightly straighten your knees up, but still have a bit of a softness. We're not trying to force the movement, we're just gently stretching to where our body's at. And just let your arms go nice and floppy. Just swing slightly from side to side. Maybe gently just rock from side to side. Just letting the head and neck feel really long and really floppy. Not trying to just actively hold it in any position, just letting it go where the body wants to. And then just gently nodding your head as if you're saying yes. And then slightly shaking your head as if you're saying no. And now help. Just slightly bending your knees, and we're just going to slowly curl up. But imagine you're going vertebrae by vertebrae. So head stays nice and floppy, arms nice and floppy, and you're just slowly unpeeling yourself all the way back into a standing position. And the last thing to come up is your head and neck, and then just circling your shoulders backwards. Just taking a couple of steps forwards now, so you're towards the short edge of your mat. And then just taking a big breath in as you're reaching the arms out and overhead, palms facing towards each other. And then on an exhale, just folding forward from the hips, just going as far as feels comfortable for you. Feel free to bend your knees, just listening to your body. And then on an inhalation, straightening the back, keeping the neck nice and long, looking down and either resting your hands on your thighs or just below the knees, but keeping that spine nice and long, lifting that tailbone, weight evenly distributed between your toes and your heels. And then exhale, just folding forward again down to the floor, then bending your knees as much as you need to get your hands down. And I want you to step back into a plank position, and then just lowering your knees down to the floor. So you're into a supported plank, keeping your elbows in by the side, and you want to keep them anchored in so they're not coming out to the side. And we're just going to slowly lower down to the floor, so keeping your core nice and engaged, and then just slowly lowering all the way down to the floor. Slide myself backwards. And then from this position, bringing your elbows so they're roughly under your shoulders, resting your forearms flat and your palms flat on the floor, and then just coming up into a gentle back bend. So we're coming into Sphinx pose for now. So chest nice and lifted, looking forwards, looking straight ahead, spine nice and long, and just taking a couple of breaths there. Feeling that stretch along the front of the abdomen, and that openness across the front of the shoulders. And then just slowly lowering down, bringing your hands so they're stacked under your shoulders, and we're going to just press back into child's pose. So pressing down through your arms, and then just sitting back onto your heels, keeping your arms extended, and then just taking a few breaths in extended child's pose. And then uncurling the toes, pressing down through the hands, and we're going to lift up into downward facing dog. So you're just pressing your bottom in the air, pressing the knees away, pressing the heels towards the ground, and coming up into your upturned V shape. And now looking towards the front of the mat, and I just want you just slowly stepping your feet towards your hands and just coming into a gentle forward fold, and then slowly uncurling and peeling up all the way into a standing position. And we'll just do that once more. So towards the front of the mat, big breath in, reaching the arms up overhead. Exhale as you fold forwards, bringing the hands towards the floor, bend your knees as much as you need to. Then on an inhale, straightening the back, keeping the spine nice and long, looking down towards the floor. And then on an exhale, just folding down, bringing your hands to the floor, bend your knees as much as you need to, and then step back into plank position, core nice and engaged, lowering the knees down, keeping your elbows in by your side. Just slowly lower down to the floor, and then you can stay doing Sphinx pose, or we can go up into a baby cobra. So just pressing down through the hand and just coming into a slightly higher back bend this time, but we're keeping our hips in contact with the floor. We're keeping our arms active and working with us in this pose. We're not just hanging out in the pose as much as feels comfortable. And then from this position, we're just going to lower down slightly, pressing back and coming to sit back into extended child's pose. Just lowering your forehead towards the ground. Take a few breaths there. And then uncurling the toes. And we're just going to press up into downward facing dog. Keeping the core nice and engaged. And looking to the front of the mat. Slowly walking your toes in towards the mat. And then just coming up through a ragdoll position. So head tucked in. Slowly unpeeling as if you're going vertebrae by vertebrae all the way up to standing, and then just relaxing the shoulders backwards. Just coming down now into a seated position. I just want you bringing the soles of your feet together into like a diamond shape, keeping them a little bit wider to begin with so you've got lots of space. Sitting up nice and tall so your spine's nice and long. And then I just want you from the hips, folding forwards, just going as far as feels comfortable whilst keeping your spine long. And then once you've found you've reached your point, keeping the spine extended, then just see if you can just allow the head and neck to soften and just folding over so that you're rounding the spine and just feeling the stretch in those back of the neck muscles too. If it feels too much, then just easing backwards slightly or taking your feet a little bit further away. And then just slowly drawing yourself back up and just coming back to a seated position. And that's your morning practice for today.